What are human corpse stones? What if I told you that some stones in Britain were designed to trap the souls of the dead? In the rolling hills of medieval England stands an ordinary-looking stone with an extraordinary purpose, a corpse stone. But why would anyone build resting places for the dead? What happens when modern hikers ignore these ancient markers? And why do electronic devices mysteriously fail near these haunted checkpoints? Today, we're diving into the mysterious world of corpse stones. From unexplained phenomena to ancient curses, from phantom funeral processions to modern-day hauntings, we're about to uncover why these simple stones still strike fear into the hearts of locals. And trust me, their story is darker than you could possibly imagine. To understand corpse stones, we need to step back into medieval Britain. Imagine your loved one has just passed away, but your village church doesn't have burial rites, a common problem in those times. This means you must transport your dead, sometimes for miles across treacherous terrain, to reach consecrated ground. These journeys could take days, and carrying a coffin over long distances was exhausting work. Enter the corpse stone, a practical solution to a grave problem. These stones were carefully crafted, standing at perfect waist height for pallbearers to rest their burden. Each one was thoughtfully positioned, usually about a mile apart, creating a network of rest stops along these somber routes. The top surface was often smoothed flat, worn down by centuries of coffins placed upon it. Some featured carefully carved crosses or religious symbols, silent guardians against darker forces that medieval people believed stalked these paths. But the positioning of these stones wasn't random. Medieval builders chose their locations with extraordinary care, particularly favoring crossroads and parish boundaries. You see, our ancestors believed spirits followed straight paths. They couldn't turn corners easily. By placing these stones at strategic points, they weren't just creating rest stops, they were building supernatural checkpoints. Each time a coffin was placed on a corpse stone, it was thought to bind the deceased spirit to the proper path, preventing it from wandering back to haunt the living. Think of it as a spiritual passport control, stamping the dead on their journey to the afterlife. As we delve deeper into Britain's landscape, these stones reveal an intricate network that once spanned the entire country. In Yorkshire alone, researchers have uncovered over 40 surviving corpse stones, though hundreds more must have existed. Each region developed its own distinctive style, telling us a story of local customs and beliefs. In the rugged hills of Cumbria, many stones feature bowl-like depressions, carefully carved to secure coffins against the howling winds. But these paths held darker secrets than mere supernatural fears. In medieval times, death was more than just an end. It was seen as contagious. During the devastating plague years, corpse roads became literal highways of contagion. Each stone marker, touched by countless diseased bodies, became a potential point of transmission. Pallbearers would often carry aromatic herbs or cover their faces with vinegar-soaked cloths as they traveled these routes. Their fears weren't entirely superstitious, they were walking with death itself. According to medieval belief, every corpse stone had its own guardian spirit, typically the first corpse ever laid upon it. These spectral guardians were said to ensure proper protocols were followed, punishing those who disrespected the sacred customs. In 1667, near a remote corpse stone in Derbyshire, a group of pallbearers decided to skip the traditional rest. What followed, according to written accounts, was extraordinary. Their burden reportedly became so impossibly heavy that 6 strong men could barely lift it. Only when they returned to the stone did the weight return to normal. Even in our modern world of GPS and smartphones, these ancient stones continue to generate inexplicable experiences. In 2015, something peculiar happened to a hiking group in Yorkshire. As they approached a well-preserved corpse stone, their modern equipment began to malfunction. Cameras refused to work, and GPS devices showed them walking in circles despite following a straight path. The group's leader, a skeptical university professor, later wrote that there was no logical explanation for the technical failures. But it's not just technology that reacts to these stones. Time and again, visitors report experiencing bone-chilling cold spots near these markers, even on the hottest summer days. Dogs, known for their heightened sensitivity, often refuse to approach certain stones, pulling their owners in wide circles around these ancient markers. The sound of footsteps crunching on gravel echoes behind hikers, only to cease when they turn around to find empty paths. What's particularly fascinating is how these experiences mirror medieval accounts with uncanny accuracy. From Scotland to Cornwall, people who've never heard the old tales report identical experiences. The sound of distant singing, the sensation of invisible processions passing by, and most remarkably, sightings of phantom funeral parties dressed in period-accurate clothing from various centuries. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of corpse stones isn't their supernatural connections. It's their role as silent witnesses to human history. Each stone has seen countless farewells, felt the weight of innumerable grief-stricken journeys. They stand as testament to how our ancestors faced death, not as isolated individuals, but as communities bound together by sacred duties and shared beliefs. The stones remind us that death was once a communal journey, marked by ritual and respect. Every step along these ancient paths was laden with meaning, every rest stop a moment of reflection. These weren't just practical markers, they were bridges between worlds, between communities, between the living and the dead. Next time you're wandering the British countryside, keep your eyes open for unusually placed stones, especially near old crossroads or parish boundaries. You might just be looking at one of these ancient waypoints. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content. And if you've ever encountered something unexplainable on an old path, or if your local area has its own corpse road legends, share your stories in the comments below.